Ryan, Calvin, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Cheers, Colin.
It's so good to sit down and chat, and there's so many different areas that we can go with this one, but I want to go way back before the roaring success that is Suited and Booted that many of the listeners, including those that are in Scotland and Dubai, based all over, will have heard of. I want to go back to understand what both brought you to Dubai, and maybe at separate times as well. So Ryan, you tell me first.
We actually turned up about the same time, didn't we?
Yeah, similar kind of time we arrived.
So we actually arrived at the same time. We didn't know each other before we came to Dubai, actually. And yeah, we were just talking about it off podcast, actually, the other Dubai before it was Instagram, Facebook, official. Everyone else used to see it all over all different platforms. I had two family friends that lived over here, and I seen what they were doing with their lives. So the first thing I did was jump on YouTube and try and find a way out here. So I originally came over to do sales. 10 years ago, a decade now I've been here, which is quite a long time.
That's what we're saying. Before it was the popular place to be, you were making the move out to just try it, I guess.
Yeah, never been to the country before. Had positive things, obviously, off the back of people who's already moved here, and try to find a way over. So I was on LinkedIn, job searching online, and then found a way over, which I'm so glad I've done.
Amazing. And Calvin, what brought you over?
So originally it was for a sales role. I was working a sales role in property in the UK, and I heard about it through a friend actually. One of my friends mentioned that he knew somebody in Dubai, and I'd never heard about it other than like what he told me about it. So went on, had a wee look online, same as Ryan, checked the YouTube videos, and then applied. I sent my CV to one company, they didn't respond, and then I think because I'd done that, I got like a pop up that said like, you know, do you want to move to Dubai? What age are you? That sort of stuff, and then. Yeah, got an email and then started chatting away to the guys, and they offered me a job on the spot. So
yeah, so cool. And I think a lot of people have that story where they made the move away from home to do something sales related because it's a relatively low barrier to entry. Yeah. And even if I look nowadays, if I look at a lot of the people that come across and do real estate, they're just young and hungry. Yeah. And they maybe don't have a really dialed in skill set yet.
They don't have the strong degree to get over. And I think it's an amazing opportunity for young people, don't get me wrong. And I know you've got other people coming on the show who are in that industry, but it is a graft, it is tough, and a lot of people kind of forget that before they make the move over. I actually remember having my Skype interview, and the guy's like, "You need £10,000," and I didn't have anywhere near that. And I says to him, "Right, I'm gonna make the move. I've got £10,000," and I got here and realised quickly that it was more expensive to live here than what I originally thought. It wasn't Scotland, but yeah, if you come over here, I think a lot of people, especially if they come over here, get the mindset to make it work and don't get caught up in the lifestyle straight away. We talk about this all the time, actually. Like a lot of people are looking to move over. They come over the expectation. They see the Instagram parties. They see everything else, what everyone else is up to. But most of these people have been here for a decade. They've been here and they've worked hard and they've sacrificed a lot to make that initial move over.
More often than not, people see the tip of the iceberg rather than the iceberg. Yeah, and that's been one of my favourite parts of doing the podcast over the last 4.5, 5 years, has been learning what it takes to break through the surface and become seen and visible. And that's not always the aim or the goal, but for a business like yours, it's very important that Suited and Booted are known, they're visible, they're seen. Yeah. But the work that went in behind the scenes to make you guys so credible and expert at what you do and fulfilling on those expectations when you have clients deal with you, that's the unglamorous part that nobody was ever going to ask you on a podcast about up until recently.
We're only 32 and we look 95, but apart from that, it's not for the faint-hearted, mate.
Well, you're dressed sharply, which matters.
we have to overcompensate. Sleepless nights.
But when you move out for a sales role, what are those early days like when you're out here? Like, what's the reality of it?
It's, to be honest with you, and I think everyone's got the same story, that if you turn up with a certain amount in your bank account, you are couch surfing, you're living in smaller rooms, partitioned rooms, etc. to make it work. And a lot of people don't show that side to their journey when they move over here. They only show the successful part, and I think that's the part that, especially for people moving out, that is a graft. I mean, you need to sacrifice. We've sacrificed the last 6-7 years of our life building a brand, right? When all our mates are out partying and everything else, we've been in the shop or out at networking events and everything to try and make it work. And a lot of people don't see that the next little bit to become successful is there is a graft there is a journey there to get to that first point.
Yeah, I would agree. Like the biggest thing is like people just they hear a story like anecdotally that there's somebody come and done very well, but the ugly side to it is that I've rarely seen anybody who's been successful here that isn't willing to work 6-7 days a week, isn't willing to work till 7-8 o'clock at night. And I've seen a lot of people come with this expectation of being at the beach 3 days a week, and then that image slowly dissolves. So it's like it's funny because people come over on holiday and they're like, oh, what you doing tonight? Like, well, we're working. Like,
it's so funny when you go home though, isn't it? And folk are like, I thought you lived in Dubai and you're like pasty white. And
have to hit the sunbeds before you go back.
Have you ever rubbed beef fat on your face? Sounds crazy, but that's what I've been doing since January with No Tox face balm. I've been really focused in the last few years on reducing the number of toxins that I take into my body, whether that's getting a filter for the water in my tap, whether that's removing things like heating plastics or drinking from plastic bottles. The skin is the biggest organ in the body, so it was about time I considered what it was I was rubbing on my skin, and that includes things like moisturizers and other potentially harmful chemicals. Since January, I've been using No Tox face balm. My skin looks and feels the best it's ever felt, and you can benefit from that too. The link will be in the show notes for notoxskincare.co, and you can use Cambro for 15% off. That's funny because the UV here is not amazing either, which I've quickly learned. But I find it refreshing, and it is a common thread throughout guests where there's this period of graft and grind. But interestingly for you guys, there was a period of graft and grind before you found the thing that really elevated you, because it's not always the case that the first thing that you try is going to be the winner. And I'm a big believer that people nowadays sometimes have what I call the sunk cost fallacy. So say, for example, you came out here in real estate and you spent a year, 2 years doing it, and then an opportunity arose in another sector. Some people hang on for too long because, but I've spent a year, 2 years trying to establish myself. And then there's the other side of that, which is the shiny object syndrome, where somebody goes, oh, well, I've done real estate, now I'm going to do recruitment, or now I'm going to do whatever the other opportunity is. Like you see it online all the time. Somebody was a crypto expert, now they're an AI expert. Yeah. Who knows what the next thing is? People shift between things. What were those periods like for you guys when you're kind of grinding out here?
I think I was guilty of that, to be honest with you. I was young and there was new shiny objects at other companies and stuff, and then I remember I was with a company at the time and the company like shut down. I had to find a job quickly, and I was in real estate at the time, and then I was like, right, I need to go and find something. I was going to get some salary based, and I was chapping doors around about Dubai trying to get a job, and then finally found actually chapping doors. It was quite funny. The manager, I phoned him up and he's like, you got any job vacancies? And he's like, yeah, I've got some. And then he goes, what did they say to me? He goes, oh, what expertise you got in it? And I goes, I didn't have any at that time for recruitment, obviously. And then I went to his office the next day with a box of chocolates in my CV and said, by the way, I'm Ryan, I was on the phone to you, he obviously rejected me. And he said, right, I'll speak to you next week. And I turned up next week just to try and get in the door. But something that somebody taught me quite well at the early days into Dubai, he was actually saying to me, look, try and focus on the one thing, try and actually grind it out. And that's what you done quite well when you first arrived. You did focus on the one thing and you made a success of it.
Yeah, I mean, like obviously I moved over to do property, and you know, it was weird because I was moving over here. I'd never been here before in my life, didn't know anybody here, so it definitely was an unusual sort of experience. Like I had no perception of what it was going to be like, but I remember going into that office like the first day and being like, because I'd built it up in my head, I thought it was going to be like something out of Suits when everybody was going to be like dressed to the nines, like everyone was going to be incredible at what they do. Like there was a lot of people in that business doing very well, and you know, it was, but I didn't feel blown away. But I walked around there and thought, no, this is definitely somewhere that I can succeed, and had that confidence that no, this will be fine, because it's always that initial like, oh, what's it going to be like?
I come away from Dubai every single trip that I come on inspired, and I'm very fortunate with the network that I built at home. We were talking about the kind of intangible benefits of having a podcast, and that's been a big thing for me. But when I come here, the level of energy, hustle, bustle, and encouragement in general is really, really high. Was it like that back then for you guys?
I would say like Dubai, honestly, we have this conversation like with friends, clients, like Dubai is such a unique place in the way that there is, I mean, it's definitely changed a bit now, but it's definitely a place, because everybody's new here, right? Even if you've been here 10, 15 years, that's still new to live in a country. So people actually genuinely go out their way to help each other. And that's something we've tried to embody as people and also as a business. Like somebody comes over, you try and make any connections that you can do, and you sort of give without expectation. And then that always comes back tenfold. Like we've had friends, clients, mentors that have massively supported our business just out of the goodness of their own heart. And I think that is probably something that's missing. And I'll be honest, I would have probably said that was missing from the UK as a general rule, but we've obviously been open in Glasgow 9 months now. We have genuinely seen that happen in Glasgow. Like I think Glasgow and Scotland as a whole was maybe a wee bit of a deviation to that. Like we've had really people try and support us and recommend us to friends, and you know, like it's just incredible to kind of see that both happen at home and here.
I'm pleased to hear that, because I do think sometimes in the UK we have what's called tall poppy syndrome. So the poppy that rises highest in the field, all the other poppies try and tear it down so that you end up on a particular level. And there's a kind of biological reason for that, because it makes them the tall poppy steals all the sunlight and they can't grow. And the UK can be like that sometimes. So like starting a podcast, people are like, what on earth are you doing that for? Like, that's ridiculous. Like all sorts of much worse things than that they would say to you. But I'm interested, and I wonder, because you had proof of concept out here, whether you got more support when you moved back home because of that, because proof of concept's a huge thing. For example, nowadays there's people who'll come up to me and support me with the podcast because it's got all the credentials that shows that it's real. But in the first year where you've got nothing to back it, it's quite difficult. So I'm glad that you guys have managed to build it out here first. And when you've brought it home, people have to sit up and take notice, because it is what it says it is, and it's the success that you say it is.
It's quite unique for that to happen, especially when we explain to people in Dubai what we do. A lot of people assume that we started the brand in the UK and then we brought it over here. So we sort of captioned that part of the journey, like bringing the brand home. And same thing, we had people in Dubai saying, like, oh, there's so many problems in the UK, like, why would you open a business there? Or then we had people like at home, like, do you know what I mean? Like, this is not the right place for your brand, or that type of thing. So
I think
you always get that.
Yeah, I think you're also filtering for the right kind of people. When we think about the service that you provide, and the people that I've met through Suited and Booted, one of the events that I went to last time I was here in December, the guys that are shopping in your store are a particular type of personality who are very supportive, very high energy, very encouraging, quite abundant in their mindset. And I wonder whether the kind of people that are going into the Glasgow store, we filter for that percentage of the population, are like, I want to see these guys do well.
I think that has two elements to it. I agree with you with what you're saying with the first part. I definitely think we do attract a high net worth clientele, but we've also got the guy who's just saved up for his first suit, or he's gone to his wedding, or he's saved up all year and he's got the job promotion coming up. Do you know what I mean? And our price point isn't unattainable in Glasgow. We've made it a price point that is attainable. We rival other stores there for that reason, and that's a big part for us. Is we wanted to make it the guy who's got his job promotion, he can come in and actually get a suit off the shelf from us.
That's a massive part of our brand. Like, so we are a luxury brand, right? But the biggest thing, especially with the fashion demographic at the moment, that unless you're a Louis Vuitton, Hermes, Prada, people like that, unless you're in the top 1% of their spenders, they really do not care about you. So for us, the guy who's spending 600 quid or the guy who's spending $6,000, there is no difference in value in that person, because the guy who's spending, like, we were all wearing a 600 quid suit one day. You know what I mean? You can afford a better one now, but you can never know what the journey somebody's going to be on. And I think that we feel like we've created a community, and we want to treat everybody who comes into that store, if they're buying a t-shirt, or they all get the same service. And then I generally think that goes a long way, because that guy might tell his friend who is X, but we don't care. We just believe that if we give everyone that service, then the business will take care of itself.
And you're a service-based industry, and I
100%.
think that's so clear. But before we get onto the nuts and bolts of Suited and Booted, where did the idea itself come from, Ryan? Because you were the man that got it all started.
Yeah, so basically there was no mobile British tailors. There was no British tailors, to my knowledge, in the region at the time, and there was nobody doing it mobile. So there was guys always asking me where I got my suits from, and it was a epiphany moment. I was like, why is nobody going to these guys' offices with fabric books and taking them in and showing them what we can do? And if you're starting to get measured up for a suit, calling your mate next to you's going, I want the same suit, or I want something else. So from that perspective, the idea just came to start at mobile. I found a tailors at the time who I was using, and I said, can you handle X amount of extra workload? They said yes, and they couldn't. And then I was going round about and chapping doors and meeting people. So that's how the brand originally started.
Yeah, so cool. And that's the hustle and bustle element that I think people love to hear about. Because I'll tell you a story later on, but I've got a quote from one of your early customers. I first bought suits from Ryan from the back of his shitty old renter Toyota Yaris.
He wasn't doing the appointment in the car, just to make that clear.
He turned up with the suits in it. Yeah.
Do you know, it's funny, I've got the photo of that car, actually. I'll send it to you. And me and Calvin were laughing about it all day. That was the marketing office, the accounts office, the sales office in that car, and I spent 90% of my life in it, driving around Dubai. But amazing memories, and it was so exciting at that time, building the brand at that time as well. There was a lot of obviously stuff I never knew about business. I was only 24, I was young, didn't know about cash flow, proper marketing, expanding the business properly at that time, but I enjoyed the process of it, and I think that was so important to me because I had no money, there was no investment, it was just literally like up and get on with it and try and find a way, and I learnt so much in the early days. It's now we'll put into our business now, do you know what I mean? So from my side, it's amazing memories, and it's always good to reflect, right? You forget sometimes, and we are sometimes, we were talking about it yesterday actually, we sometimes forget to actually enjoy the moment of things because there's a million things on the go. But as a business, it's definitely important to actually sit back and go, they were good times.
Of course, perspective's everything. So zooming out, and people always talk about like, oh, how you find being so busy, and you guys, I know how you guys operate in terms of the number of days you need to be available to clients and everything like that. But there's a quote from Steve Harvey: "I can't complain about how much I have on my plate when my goal was to eat." Yeah. And see 2017 Ryan, when you were hustling and bustling and you maybe just come out of the recruitment job and you're trying to build up your client base. Yeah. If he could see where you were in 2025, he'd probably think he'd on some sort of trip.
You wouldn't believe
mad.
it. You wouldn't believe it. And like people ask us that question, like, you know, did you have this massive vision? And I think that we had elements of it, but in terms of being 6 years into Suited and Booted, and then seeing what we've sort of accomplished in a short space of time, like probably me more than anyone, I'm the worst for it. Like I always just constantly focus on the next thing. Like I almost get to certain points of where people are so happy, like, oh, you've opened this store or you've done this. Like I sometimes generally don't feel it because the vision is so big that almost feels like an obvious next step. You know, like, yeah, of course we've done that because the vision is X. So that's something that we've both been speaking about, like working on, like, you know, trying to put yourself when you first started and be like, yeah, you would be so buzzing with that. But
there's loads of little frameworks you can use. And again, I've spoken to guests that are much cleverer than me, who are like really well versed in like human psychology. And the reason that people like you build businesses like yours, and people that listen to a podcast like this one are hungry to listen to your story and apply it in their own life, is because they don't pause to reflect too often. But it's just trying to increase the frequency of that pausing to a little bit more, and our happiness and our gratitude will hopefully increase in line with that as well.
It's other people normally that can see it, and like you see it, like for my friends who've got businesses or whatever, like I can feel it that I'm more excited for them than they are for themselves, and you genuinely feel it. You're like so happy when somebody else who's in your network or a good friend does well with something, and then you think to yourself, well, I do not even feel that with my own. But again, it's where you see it going, I suppose.
Ryan, I shared that quote with you. That's from Joe Woodhouse. Oh, unbelievable. Great guy. Had him on the podcast 2023 to talk about finances, and some of the stuff he was sharing about people coming back as expats from the UAE quite unsuccessfully financially was something that was quite interesting for me, and I think you can see it with the lifestyle creep out here. But he shared with me a story that he said, you need to ask Ryan about this because it showed the character of the man, and this was one of your first Christmases in business, and you got let down by a supplier and the situation that you were in. How did you go about handling that and maybe bring that to life for the listeners?
At that point in the business is quite open actually, but at that point in the business I was in debt with the suppliers. A couple of things went wrong. I was 25 at the time, and I had about 20 guys up in Abu Dhabi who were waiting for their Christmas suits, and the supplier wasn't paid, and I wasn't going to have a chance to actually get the tuxedos for their end of year party to them. There was a whole palaver behind it all, and I remember driving up to Abu Dhabi to tell them all that I couldn't deliver the suits to them, and it was a point in the business actually. I never thought ever about quitting, but it was definitely close to breaking point at that time. And I arrived to the guys' offices, and the guys have been here for about maybe 5 to 6 years before I was actually here. They've been through all the hardships of moving to a different country and setting up their own businesses and setting up their own infrastructures. And I got there, and I remember walking in, and I had no suits on me. They're all waiting for their tuxedos for the end of the party, and I sat down with the 3 main guys. Joe was one of them. I said, listen lads, I'm not going to be able to deliver your suits. X, Y and Z's happened to me. I've not got the finances to pay for the suits. And I think like 90% of them bought another suit on the spot to support me. I remember just overwhelmed leaving that office, driving back down to Dubai, thinking, right, I can make this work again, I can keep going. And it was little moments like that. You sometimes, again, talking about reflection, there's so many good people out here who have supported our brand, especially in the early days, especially through COVID. And after I opened up our first store, and 3 weeks later it's COVID, and then as soon as the doors opened, they came back and bought with us straight away. Like, there's so many of these people who have probably been a massive success in our success story. They've been a bit part of that journey.
Yeah, they backed you. And what he said to me was the reason he was desperate for me to ask this, and I promised you guys in the chat when we were getting organised for this, I really do my research and I like to find out from other people who know you, like a bit of a character reference almost. And he said the fact that you turned up in person and said, guys, this is the situation, this is the reality. There was no frills, or there was no kind of like hiding behind a WhatsApp, or can I phone you tomorrow, and pushing it down the line. And again, away from the podcast, I work in sales, and I've been doing a lot of sales coaching recently for young guys. And one of my biggest encouragements for them is talk about the elephant in the room. Face, if there's an issue, get it out into the public and have the honest conversation. And 90% of people completely resonated, understood where you were at, Ryan. Whereas your fear before having that conversation is that 90% of people are going to be like, I never want to work with him again. But by bringing a human element to things, doing it in person, putting yourself out and being like, I'm really sorry this is the case, but I'm going to do everything I can to fix it. That's probably what gives sticking power to customers. Like, I know there's people I buy from that I like who they are as people, and their product meets the problem or the issue that I've got and the solution that I require. And I'm like, well, it's a win-win.
Yeah, I mean, listen, for me, obviously, Ryan and I met when Ryan was already doing tailoring, and obviously we became like, you know, best of friends before there was any conversation about business. And what he's just described there, that's one story like that, but there's multiple like that. You could sit and tell stories for days about all the different things, and ultimately he's always had that relationship with clients. And like what you said, how many people in the world would turn up and face that head on? And I think that's instilled, like that initially like gave me massive respect for him. It obviously was part of my decision making process in terms of going into partnership with somebody who can behave like that. And it's testament to like his character why the business even came from. Ultimately, the product at that point or the service at that point was nowhere near what it is now. I think could be lying to say otherwise, but what it did have at the beginning is that client focused service, and that'll never change. Thankfully, the product's caught up now. So
yeah,
but he was always doing his bit,
and the systems that sit in behind that as well. And I think in the early days in business, you are just trying to build the wings as you fly. Yeah, exactly. And you need proof of concept, you need a customer base, you need people paying you. I spoke to Adam Sinclair recently, who has a removals company, and he just started it after he finished playing pro rugby at a young age. He got injured, he was like, right, I need to get out of this. And he wrongly priced the first job really, really badly, but he got the job and he got a testimonial, and he was like, right, all I need to do next time is just price it a bit better, and I'll actually make money from this. And I love hearing these little stories at the start, and it kind of reassures people who are listening to this that are maybe on the precipice of starting something or taking action that it's not going to be perfect at the start. Actually, far from it. There's probably going to be stuff that really rattles you. And I heard you speak before that there was like moments where you're having panic attacks thinking about how stressful this was. And
people don't see that side. People don't see that side of the business, and especially the early days. As much as, again, I've touched on it before, I loved it. Like, there is anxiety as a business owner, there is stress, there is sleepless nights, and even now everyone looks like the grass is green. We still have sleepless nights, the stress is still there, the anxiety is still there, but I think that urges you on and pushes you on to become a better person yourself and become a better business because you want to be the best, right? So that's the stuff that keeps you up at night. I still lose sleep at night if the simplest thing goes wrong, which should not even be on my radar at all, and it's a fixable problem. I still carry that weight deeply with me, but I love it. I love the product, I love the business, I love what we're building. I love the fact I'm building a business with my best mate. I'm excited for the next 5 steps for us, do you know what I mean? But I still care about the small details, and I think that's what makes a difference with business being successful and not successful. We've been here for 8 years, doing this for 8 years. There's a part of us where we'll continue to do it for another 8 years, you know, so we want it to be the best for a reason, and the small details matter.
The passion comes through. And when I was getting organised for this, everyone I spoke to that knew you guys was like, they love what they do, and customer obsession is like a corny corporate term that you see on like a list of values that people have. But if you actually demonstrate that in your actions, your customers feel it, and they genuinely show it.
People are... It's a unique industry what we do, right? Because fashion has changed so much. Like, we've obviously learned about it from doing it, but you've obviously got your generic retail stores. It's very unusual for people to actually see the face of a brand. So we honestly believe we're put ourselves in a position where we can change the market. We can change the way people experience tailoring. We can change with By Smiths how people experience luxury casual wear, and that's a unique position to be in. And we genuinely care about that. There obviously the business element is one thing, but we think we can actually change the market, and that's an exciting prospect.
It really is. You said you were friends first. What enabled you to get involved in 2019, am I right in saying, Calvin?
Yeah, so Ryan and I obviously always had a laugh. We always said you couldn't do my job, I couldn't do your job, and we just had banter with each other about the different parts of it. And again, we touched on it earlier, we built out a massively strong relationship in a short space of time. And Dubai is quite difficult at the beginning. You don't have your same friends network. Do you know what I mean? And having those close relationships at home, to have somebody here who was do you know what I mean? It's just almost felt surreal. Same second name. He looks more like my brother than my actual brother. So I don't know.
Well, I think that's a common misconception.
Everyone assumes
people say the Smiths,
chosen brothers. So yeah, it started to get feeling you just think, right, there's a gut instinct. I always say tried to close me before I knew what I was doing, dressing me in nice suits and stuff like that. And clothing and tailoring was always something I was passionate about. My granny was a tailor. I had a bit of an understanding of what that was, and had sort of small business things in the UK to do with clothing and stuff like that, so it was of interest to me. So to feel that we had an opportunity to create a brand with one of my best mates, and we never had this grand vision at the beginning.
Remember, everybody told us not to do it. Remember the start?
So many people.
Everybody told us you shouldn't go into business with your best mate. You shouldn't go into business with your best mate. Horror stories. It's been one of the best things we've ever done.
Yeah, because the trust element's massive, right? We've seen loads of people's businesses fail, and it's difficult. You can sometimes people say, I'm going to go into business with such and such. You're there needs to be and again both work just as hard as each other, different attributes, but we're on the same page. We've never, not so far anyway, we've not had a disagreement about the vision going forward. It's always just that wee intricacy in terms of what do you think, should we focus on something?
That's probably pretty healthy though, because if you were both totally identical, the exact same,
yeah, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work if we were the same.
You would probably have great success in particular areas, but again, spoke to Daniel Priestley the second last time I was here, who amazing in the entrepreneurial space, and he was talking about how valuable it is to have a co-founder or a business partner that has, that's right, and complementary skill sets. Yeah. And it doesn't need to be radically different, but if somebody's slightly more data analytical, somebody's a little bit more interested in the marketing, the sales, that's fantastic. Now, both of you can be good at both, but one being better at the other and sort of leading on that is a nice way to work.
Yeah, it's true, and that happens just naturally, with certain projects or certain things within the expansion. Ryan deals with some stuff, I deal with stuff, and it almost doesn't even feel like a conversation. It's just an obvious, right, okay, you handle that, I handle that. We always chat to each other about what's happening, and it works quite well. And then even within the team, then attributes that Ryan and I don't have, we've then added that with the team that we've built. Yeah. So one of our good friends, Brendan McCann, he done something for us as a favour in the early days, where he done a disc analysis. So it was and it was interesting. It was not something I had any knowledge about. So he done the disc analysis, and then obviously explained to us that we had very similar attributes. And he said that you're maybe missing someone within the business who's more sort of finance driven, who thinks like an accountant for all intensive purposes. And even understanding that you need to build a team with people that are, have attributes that you don't have, with the Richard Branson quotes, you should never do something yourself that someone else can do better. That's always stayed with me. That's not to say that you're above doing certain tasks, but if you're not good at that, you shouldn't be doing it. And that's something, again, that it takes time to learn that, because it's fine saying it, but doing it's a different thing.
I love the disc personality model, and there's a book called Surrounded by Idiots by Thomas Erickson that's based on it. And Surrounded by Idiots is an offensive, aggressive title, because sometimes with you encountering somebody with a different personality type, you feel like you're dealing with an idiot. But it's really important that you have different people with different skill sets and different perspectives within a business. So, for example, in my day job, I'm very red, which is fast forward, let's go. But I quite like data and analytics as well. That comes from like my kind of fitness background. But people that work in like our stock team that are ordering stuff from the Far East, that are ordering stuff from Europe, that are making sure it lands in the containers at the right time, they are so analytical, but you would never let them speak to a customer, or you would never expect them to like push through on a deadline because they're so determined to make something happen, or they've got like a revenue target in mind. But those are the people that allow me to go out and be jazz hands as the sales guy and close the deal and make it happen. And without them, I would never be able to do what I do. And I think it's always great to recognise the different skill sets that we maybe try and plug those holes within the business.
Massively. Business is a team game. Like, that's one thing that like the team that we've built and will continue to build is our biggest strength. Like, there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes, but one of my like proudest moments of the business is like hearing like you touched on earlier that you've met some guys from the brand, like you said you've met Paul or you met Giuliano and they took you to the races, and there's comments about them. Hearing people say that they've met people from the brand and they embody everything that we've already talked about, that for me is massive, because they talk about it as if it's their own. They put in a massive effort. It's incredible to hear people obviously give that feedback, because it makes me feel like that we're onto something with that as well.
I listened to an old YouTube video, Ryan. You were doing an interview with Grassroots Agency, and you were saying that when you were trying to build Suited and Booted, because you'd been established first, people were saying, "Oh, go to Ryan for your tailoring." You had to do a lot of work to go to Suited and Booted. What did that process look like?
Well, it was me and Calvin actually, when we first went into business together again, when we were online and there was people recommending us, it was always Ryan. And it was to that first point we actually sat down and goes, right, we need business cards with a logo on it rather than just thinking suit bags with a logo on it. It was daft things at the start, and like, let's actually get the Instagram looking more like a company rather than my personal page. And there was little key tweaks at the start. We had to then switch over from being about me and being about the brand and getting models in rather than me and Calvin being the face of it. And those little steps we took at that time, and it really established us. And I think that's what actually put us on the map to begin with, was the little key points, and taking away from just Ryan going out, because there's a lot of companies out there who are the company. But if you want to grow and scale, you need to have the ability to switch that over to actually building a brand rather than building your own personal brand up. And I think that's one of the key parts of business, is able to switch that over.
I really like that, and I think, Calvin, you spoke to that really well when you talk about the team members. People say Paul from Suited and Booted, Giuliano from Suited and Booted, which is great because they've got a personal brand, but also they know that it belongs to an overarching thing, that everyone has a particular set of values and a particular set of behaviours and a particular product that sits behind that as well. And I think that's really refreshing, whereas I do think you have some founders that, and I guess it's very tempting from an ego perspective, to keep pushing the personal brand at the damage to the business.
We talk about that quite a lot, and I think giving them a personal brand as well, like their own, like one of the best things that ever happened to me in business was when I went to a client and they went, "Listen, I'll deal with your suit fit," and I think it was Giuliano's round the corner, he's dealing with our fit, and he goes, "No, I'll just wait for Giuliano." And I thought, I could cry with happiness right now. Do you know what I mean? I was like, they've built up their own client base. They've built up, the people are just coming in just to see them now because they've been with us for so long. And Calvin was touching on there as well. Like, something we speak about often is the fact that one of the proudest moments of being a business owner, again, we never thought about this at the start, but these guys have changed their lives as much as they've changed ours, you know, and they've changed their financial life. They've changed like their infrastructure around them, and everything else has changed around about them, which is amazing, right?
That feels class. And I'm speaking to Callum White from White & Co. Depending on the episode release order, it will come out already, or it will be out after this. And he's got 400 brokers working for him now, which is an amazing brand. I know he's a loyal Suited and Booted customer as well. He is sharp, isn't he? Which helps. And he speaks so much about the power of the team being beyond what he does. And how on earth could you ever have a big business if it's purely reliant on just the face of it?
100%. What he's done in a short period of time is phenomenal, and what he's done in the market, he's created noise, not just here, but when you speak to people, especially back in Scotland, Callum White, name will come up, so he's done amazing with that.
Yeah, amazing. What has it been like from a network perspective to be connected maybe with people like him, or having customers that are very public on social media? And of course, you guys are the ones that are making them look smart when they're out there.
I think the Dubai element to that is massive, because you've got so many people here in so many different industries, right? Like you touched on like the fitness thing. We've got guys that are in fitness, crypto, lawyers, business, all your generic finance, people that are still wearing suits, then we've got clients who come to us who don't buy tailoring, they just buy all the casual stuff. So I think that having such a diverse network, and then it's also the same thing that we spoke about in terms of them embodying that referral and helping each other network. And we've managed to connect loads of our network to each other. So that like being connected with people of not like your generic like influencer, like people of influence. Do you know what I mean? Like people who are well respected in their field. They don't need to be on Instagram to be an influencer. Do you know what I mean? It's like an old school what an influencer actually is. Like the guy who is the owner of the company, the guy who has, you know, advises the newer members of staff. That is the kind of person that we've tried to tap into, because people respect them. It's not about having followers, it's about having people's respect, and then it trickles down well.
That's so true. And I think people like to talk about things they get compliments on. So if somebody says, your suit looks great, or I love that quarter zip, or where's that t-shirt from? Yeah. You're much more likely to be enthused about telling someone, especially if it's something that you've gone out your way to get done on a more intimate basis, in terms of if there's a exactly, you want to feel encouraged to talk about it. And again, one of the things that I coach some of the sales guys I'm working with is the highest form of social proof is a referral. So you've got case study, testimonial, and then you've got referral. If you get referred, that's an open goal. Somebody should want to work with you straight away.
Such an important part of our business, and it's my mantra. I drill it in Monday mornings, every Monday morning. I'm like, referrals, just because the fact that you gave that client all the hard work, all the service, they've got somebody in their phone book who would love it. And like Calvin touched on earlier, and it's been well received in Glasgow, is the casual element of it as well. So we don't just sell suits, we actually sell bespoke jeans, bespoke knitwear, and it's affordable. It's at a price point where people can come in and treat themselves. It's a great experience for a guy to come in and actually get something bespoke made, and you can get a refreshment when you're in, get a chat and build that relationship with the style consultant, like that part of the journey. And then actually asking them for, do you know someone else who would be interested in their service, goes a long way.
There's an element in refinement in what we do. Do you know what I mean? So like actually giving somebody that knowledge, like you do obviously get people that are very well dressed and all, but I would say as a general rule, a lot of people appreciate a little bit of help in terms of what colours to match, or, you know, what fabrics work well for certain.
Especially guys.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I see something and I'm like, would that look alright in that, or would I not? And everyone's got pros and cons to how they look and how they style themselves, and sometimes you see somebody dressed in a particular way and they give a completely different, and they'll use a Gen Z phrase, aura, in a particular attire, and they do in another.
100%.
Different in some of the clothes you wear too. Yeah.
The psychological element to turning up somewhere and feeling good is massive, and like we'll get guys who'll say that won't look good on me, but see, just like end of the day, you're not going to push someone's boundaries too much, but even down to like telling them what fabric to have in a blazer, or telling them what trainers to match. Like we'll really go out our ways to advise our clients, and the biggest feedback we get from guys or females is like, I can't believe how enjoyable that process was, which is normally people go in thinking, I'm going to get asked questions I don't know the answer to. Like, we are there to make the process easy, but then also to make you look unbelievable at the end of it. So once you've had that experience, you're coming back. That's the truth. Like it's unbelievable. Yeah. 80-90% every month. We do the figures every month. 80-90%. It's never been below like the mid 80s in terms of repeat business, and that's testament to obviously the product. But I think the service is just as important as the product. We know the product's amazing, but how that's delivered is obviously how it's delivered is the main element to it, essentially.
Yeah, completely agree. How is that service and the way that the team interact with customers evolved over time?
I think it's a process, right? Because like we touched on things earlier, like we've improved throughout the journey as well. So before, like our knowledge is massively superior than it was initially. Our level of manufacturing is completely superior. So as we've learned all the different steps along the way, it's helped us, you know, sort of have a different conversation. We can now talk about things, but at the early days we hadn't had that in the bank.
Yeah, I think that the best sales experiences when I'm purchasing something, and I think people resonate with this, is when you're dealing with what I would call a trusted advisor. So that's somebody that you can be open and honest with about the situation you're in and what you're looking to do, and it can be as serious as my car's broken and I want to be working again, or it could be as interesting as I've got this wedding coming up in the summer, or I've got this event that I'm speaking at and I want to look great for it. And being able to confide in somebody and then come to the fore with different options and solutions that are tailored for you, and tailored is literally what you guys are doing. That is the best encounter, because you come away from it feeling like you've been listened to. And again, I've got a really silly phrase that I use, but prescription without diagnosis is medical malpractice. So if I turned up to the doctor's surgery and before I've even sat down in the chair, he says, no problem at all, Colin, here's your prescription. You're going to take 3 of these 3 days a week for the next 3 weeks. I'd be like, what? These are for headaches. It's my knee that's the problem. People sometimes feel like in a sales interaction, they've walked in and they've just been throwing the nearest and dearest kind of best commission option from the person that's selling to them. Whereas for you guys, like every interaction I've had from Michael and the Glasgow Score to Paul and Jan out here, really engaged, like, where are you at just now? Where do you want to get to? And then we've got a range of options that get you there.
That's really important from the salesperson experience. You touched on something there, because it's easy. We've obviously been through training with the guys and stuff like that. It's easy for you to, like, for the salesperson from our side to sell what they like. But what you said is listen to what they understood. Like, you know, it's like a gradual process. If you've got a guy who's only ever bought blue suits, maybe he's not going to want a casual set and like a bright jacket, but you could maybe advise him, listen, if you incorporated another colour or a brown or a grey, like there's understanding what the client needs and maybe pushing their boundaries slightly, because people need to have an understanding. It's not just what they think, it's what the client needs.
What do you think are the biggest mistakes that guys are making when it comes to the suits they're wearing?
I can go deep with this.
You're the expert.
How long we got? No, I think there's obviously a difference from off the shelf to bespoke. And bespoke, there's a lot of different terminologies you can go into when you're getting something made for yourself. The way it sits on your shoulders, the break on the trousers. There's a lot of different elements to that. And guys are different body shapes, right? Completely different body shapes. So usually when you get something off the shelf, it's genetically fitted to mass produce for thousands and thousands of people. But the cool thing with getting something made for yourself, and we've actually seen a massive uptake in this in Glasgow. 80% of our business has actually been getting something made, but you can actually get it to the design you want, the sizing you want, and we offer lifetime alterations as well, which is pretty cool. So we had a client recently lost 50 kgs, which is quite a lot, and we recut and made all his stuff for him. So for us, it's about getting the client's body shape right and getting the suit to fit them properly for that, and picking colour palettes and tones. But people like to be expressive, right? Tailoring's, there's some guys pick suits that I probably won't wear myself, but the nice thing about tailoring is they can be expressive and they can wear something that's more to their personality.
So it's an extension of your character, right? And again, like if you turn up and you look in a certain way, people notice. And whether that is like you go for more of a classic look, or where somebody's a bit more flamboyant in how they dress, like people do notice. And it does change the way people perceive you. So our advice involved in that can be massively different. You spoke about like going into a speaking event or something, like if you've got that extra sort of look good, feel good factor, it goes a long way.
I have 3 or 4 different things that I wear for most podcasts or most public speaking events, because I know that it fits me well and I feel confident in it. I don't have to overthink what I'm going to put on in the morning. There's a thing called decision fatigue, isn't there? So if I'm worried about this new shirt that I'm wearing, is it a bit baggy around my waist, or is it a bit tight around my shoulders? Do I look a wee bit like I'm trying too hard to look like I've been in the gym? That puts me off my delivery of the talk that I'm giving on communication. And that is a terrible thing. Whereas if you have particular outfits that you know that you look good in, you feel good in, having those as maybe outfits you've spent a bit more money on, but you feel great in, and you know you can, like I would say, rely upon, that's worth its weight in gold. How do you put a price on that?
Phenomenal. We get so much feedback for the guy who's went and seen his wife and he's wearing his new outfit and she's like, oh, I love it. No, you look amazing today. Like, there's such a confidence boost on just things just fitting properly, and spend a little bit more money on yourself to get a better wardrobe's definitely for, obviously it's our business in our opinion, but it definitely goes a long way.
And you spoke about something there, like the things you wear most often. So like that's what we would always advise people. Like if you're coming to have something made, get the thing made that is like an absolute go-to for you, because you're going to get the most use out of that, and then that can be then paired with other things. And there's a movement in the market in general just about like not buying disposable fashion. Sometimes people would go down and buy, 20 cheap things rather than one good thing. And I think a lot of people are never out of that cycle, but not until they've had the one good thing, because then they've got a reference point. If you've only ever bought disposable fashion, you don't have a reference point. So some people say, oh, why would I have something made for me if you can get one for a third of the price? Well, but you've probably bought 3 or 4 of them at the third of the price. That one thing you've invested in, I can't get my head around it, but obviously we do it every day.
You guys are in it, but I think people often need to experience something. There's some lessons that can only be taught by experiencing it. So for example, there's like lessons that you have to learn yourself. So somebody might tell you that money doesn't make you happy, but you're still just going to keep pushing until you get as much money as possible. And then you realize you're like, well, I was happier because I can afford things now, but I'm not actually happier by the fact that I work every hour of the day and I don't have any friends or family. Or you could be like, oh, that girl who's really hot but like quite aloof with me, like you're just chasing her and chasing her and chasing her. The lesson there is like, well, that's never going to really make you happy. In the same way, buying all these clothes that are off the shelf that maybe don't fit you particularly well, but it was only 30 quid, whereas the t-shirt from By Smith was 90, but you're thinking, oh, but the t-shirt from By Smith, every time you wear it, people are like, where's that from?
Yeah, it doesn't wash out, it doesn't shrink. It's the difference as well, like going that sustainability mode with it as well. So yeah,
really cool. I want to ask you about casual wear. What are guys getting wrong from that perspective?
I think you could go into deep chats about fits and body shapes and stuff like that, but I would almost say the main thing is colour selection. Things not put together intentionally. Like, do you know what I mean? Like like you see somebody who's got like, I've seen like a check jacket, striped trousers, different tie, just so busy and not well. Like even if you didn't have something bespoke or something incredible, if you put colours together well, it always looks intentional. It looks a bit fashionable.
Things that complement as well. I've seen a big rise in guys wearing the quarter zips, and I think they look fantastic. But the ones that I've been buying over the years, they differ massively in quality, and one looks radically different to the other 2 years on. And it's a bit of a concern, but I've seen a massive rise in that, and guys are maybe smartening up a little bit compared to, I think the last few years there was a big rise in leisure wear in the UK. Hopefully we're seeing the pendulum swinging back towards guys dressing a bit more classily.
Yeah, there's some, again, I know I've touched it many times, but getting something good quality and it feels well, looks good, right?
The knitwear you touched on has been really popular in Glasgow. Like we do bespoke knitwear, which is something quite unique. So you can get a quarter zip made in any colour you want. You can choose wool, silk, cashmere, cotton. Like where in the world can you get made to measure knitwear? And that's like at the entry level price point. You can get your initials on the cuff of the knitwear, things like that. Like whether you're 16 or 80, folk are all over that.
It's such a staple of wardrobe in the UK as well because of the conditions. That's it, because of the conditions. And I can wear it on a work call, I can wear it on a podcast, I can wear it on a presentation. Exactly. And I think that's one of the ones where you can see investing in a really nice piece is worn over and over and over again.
Yeah, exactly. And again, that's something that like it's an easy thing. Shirt underneath it, t-shirt underneath it. It's like a simple, easy, smart, casual look.
Amazing. You guys have seen amazing growth over the last few years. Partnerships with, is it Icon Golf? Rangers doing their suits. Like a lot of people listening from Glasgow have seen the photos that put up as well. What are you most excited about that's coming next?
So Ryan and I have both been working for quite some time on dressing 2 football teams in Saudi Arabia. So that's obviously been incredible. Like they're 2 of the top teams in the region. So we've dressed Al Ittihad, and so obviously it's by Suited and Booted. That Al Ittihad one's been done in a Xenia Traveller cloth, and then we have done Al Qadsiya in a Loro Piana. Quite a big differentiation in terms of how the look is. Al Ittihad have went for like a nice black suit. With a black tie, which is a bit more like sort of classic and looks really, really nice. And Qadsiya have went for like an LP fabric with a bit of stretch, and it's a bit more of a casual look. So that's been nice. Like we're dressing 2 of the top teams in Saudi football, which has been incredible, built some great relationships there. But it's also been nice to demonstrate the difference in what we do. One's a more smart casual look, one's a bit more formal. Working with Xenia and Loro Piana fabrics, we're working with the 2 top names in cloth, and that's an offering that we're really excited to offer, across all our brands. So it's cool, mate.
Can you imagine what 2019 Ryan and Calvin chatting away about working in business together?
We were buzzing to get business cards. I think we were probably most buzzing about that than anything.
Yeah, that was.
That's a sign of professionalism. But gents, I've loved today's conversation. I've loved the passion and the energy. I knew we were going to have a great chat just based on the messages we were sending back and forth, all the people that we were speaking to in advance to get organised as well. If people want to continue, follow the business journey, where should they head towards?
So you can find us on suitedbooted.com. and Suited and Booted Official on the Instagram.
Beautiful. Both of those will be linked in the show notes. Thank you to you, Ryan. Thank you to you, Calvin. I'll be back to speak to you all again very, very soon.